Welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and let's make some text circles in Illustrator here. Now, the thing is about Illustrator, it's not the exact same as Photoshop. And this is the hardest thing that I had to learn when I was learning what Illustrator and Photoshop were. So first of all, Illustrator uses vectors, whereas Photoshop uses pixels. What's the difference? Well, a vector is what we call resolution independent. And what that means is that you can scale vectors as big or as small as you wish. However, with pixels, you can't do that, or also be a loss of resolution. So imagine a picture of a house and you scale that up to the size of a skyscraper. It wouldn't look very good. It would be all pixelated. But if you took a vector of a house, like a drawing vector of a house, and scaled it up to a skyscraper, there would be absolutely zero loss of resolution. So let's go ahead and let's make a new file here, and let's go and let's make a simple text circle. For the most part, it doesn't really matter what the size is, but we're just going to make it 500 points by 500 points. Okay. And what we'll do is we will just zoom out just a bit here. And the only thing we're going to do is we're going to click this little square here and push no. We do not want a stroke. Okay. And we'll make the text circle black for this point in time here. The color right now doesn't really matter. Now, the way that you want this to work, okay, and I'm just going to zoom in, is you essentially just want to make a bunch of lines, okay? And I'm just going to make a few of these, and the other thing you have to understand about if you're not a graphic designer, you have to understand that oftentimes you just kind of eyeball things, and you kind of just randomly put a bunch of items here, okay? So we can have a bunch of these squares here, and then what we'll do is we'll make this a little bit more detailed, okay? And what we'll do is we will, for example, make, just kind of a little square like this, and then, kind of a square. And by the way, what you should be doing is you should be making something that's a little bit different than mine. So we can kind of move this back just like that, and we'll move this a little bit in, and we will kind of move this here, kind of move it around like this, and maybe make one of these just like that. And I'm just going to push the Alt and kind of move it over here. So that's essentially what we're going after here, is just this kind of little tech kind of vibe here. And you're thinking, this does not look like a text circle. Why are we making rectangles here? Well, you'll see why. You'll definitely see why once we finish this here. Okay. And I'll just kind of move this over. And this here is going to be a fairly simple text circle, I might add. Okay, and we can kind of just move this down, and kind of move this up, and maybe make one of these. Just kind of move it over, and you might have to move these around just a bit. Okay, and again, I'm just trying to show you the basic idea. Now we're going to talk about getting better at Photoshop or graphic design. It doesn't really matter what it is. I am going to show you some tips and tricks to get good at pretty much anything. Okay, and it's something that people need to talk about more in these online tutorials, right? But they end up not talking about it. So consider yourselves a little bit lucky. So I'm just going to actually just kind of move this over like that here, okay? So now we have this kind of tech-like looking circle, tech-like looking background. It should look something like this. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Just make sure that the edges are a little bit, that there's nothing around the edges here, okay? And now what we need to do is we need to push Control A, and we need to go into our brushes. Okay, and we're going to go to new brush, and we're going to make this an art brush. Okay, and in here, it should look like this. Okay, that's all that we're doing here. It should look like that. Okay, and that is the new brush here. It should look just like that here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a new layer, and I'm just going to undo that here. Now what I'm also going to do is change the color of this to, we can make it pretty much any color we want, but for now I'm just going to make it a gray. And the reason why is I'm going to show you why in just a second here. Let's make an ellipse tool, find the center, push Alt and Shift, and make a circle that looks like this here. Okay, now what do we want to do within this brush here? We want to stroke this with this text circle. And voila, look at that. We now have a really cool and interesting text circle. Now, if you want to, again, the reason why I made it gray is so that you could see it on the white background. So if you want this to be in the middle here, you can go and just move it down here. But if you can also take a look at the stroke here, you can make it, you could make it a little bit different, but we'll just go ahead and we'll add that in here. And if you want to, you can change the inside to none, and there you go. You now have a simple text circle. Now we're going to be talking a little bit more about how we can make different text circles, changing colors and all that stuff in the next tutorial. See you then.